Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Sterling and Associates boardroom. The Manhattan skyline, its iconic skyscrapers blurred by the downpour, was reflected behind the image of Sophia Harrison, pale face, trembling lips, a woman trying to breathe through a broken heart. Her husband, Matthew Sterling, sat on the other side of the table in a charcoal gray bespoke suit, tapping the divorce papers with a Mont Blanc pen like a metronome of cruelty. His lawyer smirked with self-satisfaction. Beside him, a young public relations executive, the woman everyone whispered about, touched up her lipstick using her iPhone screen as a mirror. "Sign it, Sophia," Matthew said coldly. "Let's end this farce." Sophia's hands shook as she took the pen. 7 months pregnant, she tried to hide the tremor under the silk sleeves of her dress. The scent of the other woman's expensive perfume burned her throat. She stared at her name printed in black ink, Sophia Harrison Sterling, the name she once believed would last forever. Matthew leaned back, his voice dripping with condescension. "And don't pretend this baby changes anything. For all I know, it might not even be mine." The room fell silent. The words pierced her chest like shards of glass. The lawyer coughed, trying to hide a mocking smile. Sophia held back her tears, feeling the baby kick as if the child could sense her pain. She signed, each stroke of ink feeling like she was burying her old life. Matthew swept the papers aside, glanced at his mistress, and whispered something that made her giggle foolishly. Sophia pushed herself up from the chair, clutching her belly, and whispered, "You're going to regret this." Matthew's smile widened. "I doubt it. Get out." The camera flashes erupted. The paparazzi captured the moment she walked out, soaked by the rain, tears mixing with her mascara. New York City watched, hungry for a scandal. She tried to find her car, but her phone vibrated with a message from her bank. "Your account has been frozen." Her breath caught. Matthew had locked her out of their finances. She stumbled on the sidewalk, shivering, lost in a blur of yellow cabs and a sea of black umbrellas. The city felt enormous, merciless. She pressed a palm against her stomach and whispered, "It's just us now." A bolt of lightning split the skyline. Suddenly, a woman ran toward her, Eleanor Vance, her old friend and a sharp-witted lawyer. "Sophia, don't you dare collapse." "Someone has been trying to reach you all morning," Ellie shouted, steadying her. "Who?" Sophia asked weakly. Ellie pulled a rain-soaked envelope from her purse. "A man named Gregory Salas. He says he's the executor of your mother's estate. He needs to meet with you today, before midnight." Sophia blinked, disoriented. "My mother's estate?" Ellie nodded, her eyes wide. "He said it's urgent. Something about a will and a trust fund in your name." The rain intensified, drowning out the city's noise. Sophia looked at the envelope trembling in her hand. For the first time all day, a glimmer of hope pierced the storm. But as a black sedan parked nearby, a man inside took her picture and made a call. She signed, "Proceed to Phase 2." The next morning, New York City seemed to have washed its face. Sunlight spilled onto Fifth Avenue, glinting off the storefronts of Tiffany & Co. and the glass towers. But Sophia Harrison was sitting in Ellie's small downtown office, her eyes swollen, clutching the damp envelope like it was her last lifeline. Ellie handed her a paper cup of coffee. "Drink this. You look like you haven't slept in days." Sophia tried to smile. "I haven't. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face when I signed those papers." Ellie sighed. "Matthew is a shark. But if this Gregory Salas is who he says he is, you might finally have something he can't take from you." With trembling fingers, Sophia opened the envelope. Inside was a single letter with gold-embossed initials, HT for Harrison Trust. Her heart raced as she read, "Miss Harrison, as executor of your late mother's estate, I must inform you that the terms of your inheritance are set to activate on your 30th birthday. However, an early release can be granted under specific circumstances, one of which has just occurred." Ellie's eyes widened. "Sophia, this could be huge." Sophia looked up. "But my mother died when I was 15. I thought she had nothing left." Ellie leaned closer. "Your mother was part of the Harrison Family Trust, wasn't she? That's old New York money, blue blood money. Maybe she hid it to protect you." Before Sophia could answer, the phone on Ellie's desk rang. "Eleanor Vance," she said, then frowned. "Yes, she's here. Who's calling?" Her voice softened. "Mr. Salas, one moment." Ellie put the call on speaker. A deep, calm male voice filled the room. "Miss Harrison, this is Gregory Salas. I manage the Harrison estate. You are the sole surviving heir." Sophia froze. "That can't be right." "It's more than right," Gregory said, "but listen carefully. The trust can only be transferred if you demonstrate financial and emotional fitness for an independent life. That means no spousal dependency, no shared assets, and no psychological instability that could jeopardize the heirs." Ellie frowned. "Heirs? Plural?" "Heir children." "Correct," Gregory replied. "If Miss Harrison can demonstrate full guardianship and mental stability within a 12-month period, the trust will activate, exceeding $50 million in diversified assets." Sophia nearly dropped the phone. $50 million. But before she could breathe, Gregory added, "Miss Harrison, someone else already knows. I received an anonymous inquiry this morning about your eligibility. My system was breached." Ellie's jaw tightened. "Matthew." Sophia's heart hammered. "He must have seen the letter. He'll try to prove I'm unstable, maybe even an unfit mother." Gregory's tone turned grim. "Then you must maintain a low profile. The trust's overseers are watching. If they see you as volatile, the board could freeze your claim." A heavy silence settled. Sophia looked at Ellie, fear twisting in her stomach. "So if I break down, cry, or even get angry in public, I could lose everything?" "Exactly," Gregory said. "You must project strength. And one more thing, you will need a professional evaluation of your well-being. I can recommend someone discreet." Ellie took notes. "We'll handle this. We just need time and space." But before Gregory hung up, his tone softened. "Miss Harrison, your mother believed you would rise when everyone expected you to fall. Don't let them be right about you." The line went dead. Sophia stared out the window. Yellow cabs sped past the storefronts of Dior and Cartier. The world was moving on as if nothing had changed, yet everything had. Ellie touched her shoulder. "We'll fight smart, Sophia. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe, somewhere no one can find you." Outside, across the street, a man in a gray coat lowered his camera phone and walked away, muttering into his earpiece. Phase 2 confirmed. Send it to Matthew. And just like that, Sophia realized she hadn't escaped. The game had only just begun. As dusk fell over Manhattan, the city became a river of headlights. Ellie drove her black Escalade down Park Avenue, glancing at Sophia through the rain-streaked windshield. Sophia was silent, one hand cradling her belly, the other clutching a crumpled tissue. "We need to get you some rest," Ellie said softly. "We'll go to my apartment tonight. It's more secure." Sophia nodded, staring out the window. The glowing Cartier sign reflected in the glass, reminding her of Matthew's promises. The diamond bracelet he once gave her for being patient. Now, that same bracelet was pawned at a downtown shop to pay her medical bills. Her phone vibrated. A new message flashed on the screen. "Think you can hide? You're unfit to raise my child." Her chest tightened. "He knows, Ellie." Ellie's knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. "Ignore him. He's trying to push you over the edge. You heard what Mr. Salas said. They're watching. You can't show weakness." Sophia pressed her hand to her stomach. "I'm trying, but—" She suddenly gasped. "Ellie, the baby." The car lurched as Ellie slammed on the brakes. "Sophia?" Sophia doubled over. A sharp pain shot through her abdomen. "Something's wrong. My stomach. Oh, God." Ellie's instincts kicked in. She pulled over to the curb, emergency lights flashing, and dialed 911. Pregnant woman, 30 weeks, severe pain, possible preterm labor. Park Avenue and 72nd. Hurry! The rain intensified, drowning out her voice. Within minutes, an ambulance siren cut through the storm. Paramedics rushed out, lifting Sophia onto a gurney. Her vision blurred from pain and the flashing lights. Ellie climbed in beside her, holding her hand. As the ambulance raced through the streets, Sophia whispered, "Ellie, If anything happens, promise me you'll protect them." "Don't you dare talk like that," Ellie said fiercely. "You're going to be fine." Sophia's phone vibrated again. A new message. "Maybe the world would be better off without you." Ellie's face went white. "He's a psychopath. But before she could finish, a screech tore through the air. The ambulance jolted violently as another car swerved into its lane. Metal screamed against metal. Sophia was thrown sideways. Ellie slammed her shoulder against the wall. The sirens died mid-wail. Smoke, glass, silence. When Sophia opened her eyes, she was on her side, still strapped in. The paramedic beside her was groaning, unconscious. Ellie's voice echoed faintly from somewhere outside. "Help! Somebody help us!" Through the mangled door, Sophia saw a man standing in the rain, a black hood obscuring his face. He stared at her before disappearing down an alley. Moments later, another car screeched to a halt. A tall man in a dark coat jumped out, shouting at the arriving emergency services. His voice was calm, authoritative. "Get the gurney carefully. She's pregnant." Sophia tried to focus. The man came closer. His steady, gray eyes met hers. "You're going to be okay. I've got this." Her vision faded as she heard Ellie say, "That's Alexander Davenport, the billionaire investor. He was right behind us. He saw the whole thing." Alex's voice was the last thing she heard before she lost consciousness. "She's not dying tonight." But, as she passed out, the paramedics discovered the ambulance's brake line, cleanly cut. It wasn't an accident. It was a warning. The next thing Sophia felt was the blinding white light of an emergency room and the sound of her own racing heart monitor. The antiseptic smell burned her throat. She tried to move, but pain tore through her abdomen. Someone gently pressed her shoulders back down. "Easy now, Miss Harrison," a nurse said. "You've been in an accident. You're at Lenox Hill Hospital. You need to stay calm for the babies." "Babies?" The word echoed through her haze. "The babies," she whispered. Ellie appeared at her side, one arm in a sling, her eyes red but alive. "They're trying to keep them in for a few more weeks. Sophia, just breathe." The doctor's expression behind his mask was grim. "We can't wait. Her placenta has ruptured. Prep for an emergency C-section." The room erupted into motion. Nurses pushing trays, lights flashing, a monitor beeping like an alarm clock for survival. Ellie squeezed Sophia's hand. "I'll be right here, okay? You're not alone." Sophia nodded weakly, her voice trembling. "If they're premature, will they survive?" The doctor didn't answer. Moments later, she was rushed into the operating room, surrounded by sterile walls and humming fluorescent lights. The anesthesiologist leaned over her. "Take a deep breath, Mrs. Sterling." "Not Sterling," she whispered, her eyes fluttering. "Harrison." A faint smile appeared under his mask. "Harrison, then. You're safe now." Through the haze of pain and medication, Sophia heard the doctor's voice. "First one is crowning. Ready? Push." A tiny cry cut through the air. Then another, and one more. 3 overlapping cries, ragged but alive. The sound filled the sterile room with something bigger than hope. The nurses murmured, "Triplets," all breathing. Sophia sobbed with relief. "My babies. They're alive." One of the doctors turned to someone at the door. "We'll need NICU support immediately." That's when she saw him. Alexander Davenport, the man from the crash. His designer overcoat was soaked with rain, his gray eyes fixed on her with concern. "I'm not family," he told the nurse, "but I'm covering all her medical expenses. Make sure she has the best care this hospital can offer." The nurse hesitated. "Sir, that's—" "I said all expenses," Alex repeated, his tone quiet but absolute. As Sophia drifted in and out of consciousness, she saw him produce a sleek black card and hand it to the staff. Then, his gaze softened as he looked at her. "You're safe now, Miss Harrison. You made it." When she woke again hours later, the storm had passed. The city glittered silver against the skyline. Ellie was asleep in the corner chair beside Sophia's bed. Alex stood looking through the glass of the nursery, where 3 tiny incubators glowed under pale blue lights. Sophia whispered, "They're so small." Alex turned. Small, but strong, like their mother. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you for saving us." He shrugged slightly. "You would have done the same for someone else." Then his tone grew serious. "But Sophia, that ambulance, the brakes were cut. The police found clear evidence of tampering." Her breath hitched. "You mean?" He nodded. "Someone wanted to make sure you never made it to this hospital alive." A tense, electric silence stretched between them. The hum of the incubators was the only sound. Sophia's hand trembled as she reached toward the glass separating her from her children. "Then, whoever they are," she said quietly, "they just failed." But outside that same hospital, a man in a black hood watched from the rain, whispering into his phone, "She survived. Begin Phase 3. 3 weeks after the accident, snow blanketed New York City like silence itself. Sophia sat by the hospital window, her body still weak, her eyes fixed on the city lights twinkling beyond the glass. Her triplets, Ava, Jack, and Noah, slept in the neonatal unit, tiny but growing stronger every day. She touched the glass bead bracelet on her wrist, engraved with their names. Ellie walked in, her sling gone, holding a sleek folder. "You ready for this?" Sophia sighed. "If it's another hospital bill." "No," Ellie smiled faintly. "It's not. It's the meeting Mr. Salas scheduled. He's coming here with the trust administrator." "Administrator?" "Yeah," Ellie said. "Apparently the inheritance isn't as simple as cashing a check. It's tied to a corporate trust, Harrison Holdings." Before Sophia could process it, the door opened. Gregory Salas entered, graying hair, tailored navy coat, the posture of a man who had kept secrets for too long. Behind him stood another man, tall, impeccable suit, familiar gray eyes. "Alex." "Mr. Davenport." Sophia blinked. "What are you doing here?" Gregory smiled politely. "Ah, I see you've already met. Mr. Davenport isn't just the man who saved you, he's also one of the trustees of your mother's estate." The air went still. Sophia's fingers tightened on her blanket. "You're what?" Alex looked uncomfortable. "I didn't tell you because it wasn't the right time. I was appointed years ago to oversee certain conditions of the trust. Your mother chose me when I worked with her foundation. She said if anything happened to her, she wanted someone who understood integrity, not greed." Gregory placed the folder on Sophia's lap. "Your mother, Margaret Harrison, left controlling shares in Harrison Holdings, several properties in the Upper East Side, and a long-term investment fund valued at approximately $50 million. Sophia's breath hitched. "That's impossible. She lived so modestly." "She hid it," Gregory said softly. "She wanted you to grow up with humility. The inheritance only activates if you live with independence and moral clarity, qualities your mother admired." Alex added, "She designed this to protect you. But Sophia, there's something you need to know." Gregory cleared his throat. "The board reviewed the recent press. They're concerned. Pictures of you leaving the courthouse crying, stories about instability. It could jeopardize your qualification." Ellie frowned. "That's unfair. She's been through a trauma." "It's the condition," Gregory said. "Public perception matters. Until you prove full stability and guardianship, the assets remain locked." Sophia stared at the skyline, fury mixing with grief. "So the man who humiliated me could now cost me my mother's legacy." Alex's voice was gentle. "Not if you stay calm and strategic. Let him think you're broken while you quietly rebuild." Ellie leaned in. "We'll set up a containment plan. I'll manage the legal paperwork. Alex can handle the trust relations." Sophia hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay. But if this trust is my mother's last wish, I won't let Matthew destroy that too." Gregory smiled. "Good. Because, Miss Harrison, you have more allies than you know." Before he left, Alex handed her a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver pendant engraved with a single word, courage. "She bought that for you before she passed," Alex said. "I was supposed to give it to you when you were ready." Sophia's eyes welled with tears. "I don't feel ready for anything." "You don't have to," Alex replied. "You just have to start." But as they left, Gregory received an encrypted email on his phone. Matthew Sterling had filed a court motion, claiming Sophia's mental instability endangered the triplets. The war had officially begun. Winter slowly faded into a soft, pale spring. 3 months out of the hospital, Sophia found herself on the porch of a cedar-shingled villa in the Hamptons, one of the smaller properties in her mother's trust. Waves crashed gently beyond the dunes, the air thick with the scent of salt and pine. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, there was silence. Inside, the villa was nothing like her old life with Matthew. No marble floors, no sterile perfection, just wooden beams, pale linen curtains, and a crackling fireplace beside a rocking chair where 3 bassinets sat in a row. Ava, Jack, and Noah slept soundly, each in a tiny knit cap Ellie had ordered online. Ellie, busy unpacking groceries, grinned. "Stocked you up. Diapers, formula, wipes, and decaf. I know how you like it." Sophia managed a smile. "You shouldn't have done all this." "Are you kidding? Watching you rise from the ashes is my favorite kind of revenge." They laughed quietly. It felt almost normal. But as Ellie left that afternoon, Sophia noticed a black SUV parked near the dunes. It sat there for nearly an hour before driving off. That night, when the babies were finally asleep, Sophia curled up on the sofa with her e-reader, flipping through Atomic Habits. She highlighted a quote, "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become," she whispered to herself. "Then I vote to be strong." The days turned into weeks. Each dawn brought a new rhythm: feeding, burping, journaling. She recorded every detail: Ava's tiny laugh, Jack's fierce kicks, Noah's quiet curiosity. Healing came in small doses, like the tide reclaiming the sand. Alex visited every few days, bringing supplies and advice. One afternoon, he arrived with a Mont Blanc portfolio and a kind smile. "The trust audit cleared," he said. "You're officially authorized for independent management." Sophia's eyes widened. "You mean I can start making decisions?" He nodded. "Within limits, you can control Harrison Holdings' public projects. It will prove your capability." Sophia hesitated. "Matthew won't stop, will he?" Alex's expression darkened. "He's filing more motions, claiming you're emotionally incapable and that you fabricated the inheritance." Her chest tightened. "Fabricated? How low can he go?" "Lower than you imagine," Alex said softly. "But you have something he'll never have again: public sympathy." Later that afternoon, they stood outside watching the sunset. The sky burned with shades of pink and gold, reflecting off the glass of Alex's Mercedes. He looked at her, the wind catching her hair. "You remind me of my wife," he said quietly. "Not because you look like her, but because you refuse to break." Sophia looked down, a lump in her throat. She must have been lucky. "No," he said. "I was the lucky one." Their gazes met, lingering just long enough to feel something unspoken. It wasn't romance, not yet. It was recognition, 2 souls scarred by loss. Later that night, with the house asleep, Sophia sat by the window with her laptop, drafting plans to reopen her mother's charitable foundation. Her reflection in the glass looked calmer, wiser, reborn. But then the light flickered once, twice. The power went out. She froze, heart hammering. From outside came the faint hum of an engine. Through the curtain, she saw headlights, the same black SUV parked by the dunes. A shadow got out, walking toward the house. She grabbed her phone, whispering, "Ellie? Is anyone out there?" The call wouldn't connect. No service, just the wind and her pounding heart. And as she reached for the closest thing, a baby monitor, a red light blinked on the device that hadn't been there before. Someone was already watching her from inside. The morning after the blackout, Sophia woke to the faint cries of her babies and the smell of salt on the air. The power was back on, but the memory of that shadow outside hadn't left her. Every creak of the old villa sent her into a state of tension. By the time Ellie arrived with groceries, Sophia's nerves were frayed. "There was someone out there last night," Sophia said, pacing. "I saw headlights near the dunes again." Ellie frowned. "I'll call local security. You shouldn't be alone here, Sophia." "I can't leave now," Sophia said, rocking little Noah. "If I run every time I'm scared, Matthew wins." Before Ellie could respond, a deep voice came from the doorway. "You don't have to run." They turned to see Alexander Davenport standing there, a wool coat dusted with melting snow. "The SUV you saw was mine." I was checking the property after I got a strange call from Gregory Salas. Someone tried to access your trust files again. Ellie sighed in relief. You scared the hell out of us, Alex. He smiled faintly. Sorry. I didn't want to call in case your phone was compromised. Sophia looked up. Compromised? Alex nodded, pulling a slim laptop from his briefcase. Your baby monitor was transmitting over an external IP. Someone planted a signal inside. It's no coincidence. Sophia felt dizzy. So, someone was watching my babies? Yes, Alex said softly. But they didn't just want to scare you. They wanted to gather evidence. Maybe to paint you as paranoid or unstable. It's a psychological game. Ellie's jaw tightened. Matthew's team. Again. Alex's tone hardened. Then we fight smarter. I have a friend who's a cybersecurity expert ex-FBI. He can trace the source of this signal. Until then, you're under my security detail. Sophia blinked. I can't let you do that. You've done enough already. I wasn't asking, he replied. I'm doing it because I can't watch him destroy another good person. The words hung between them. For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the ocean roared, waves crashing like distant thunder. Later that day, Alex's friend, a lean man named Nico, arrived with his equipment. He moved through the house silently, scanning every device. The signal originated from a satellite router hidden under the nursery floorboards, he said. It's sophisticated. Someone professional installed it. Sophia sat down abruptly. Professional? Like corporate surveillance? Nico met her eyes. No, not paparazzi. Someone with money. Matthew Sterling's money, Ellie muttered. Alex exhaled slowly. We'll file a report, but first, we're taking them offline. That night, Alex installed a new, encrypted network. Sophia watched him work by the flickering light of the fireplace. His focus, his calm, his quiet presence, it all felt unnervingly safe. Why are you really helping me? She asked finally. He looked up, the fire glow softening his features. Because I've been where you are. I lost everything once. My wife, my peace. Someone lied, and the world believed it. No one deserves to drown alone. She swallowed hard. Thank you. He smiled slightly. Don't thank me yet. This isn't over. The sound of the wind filled the space between them. A baby stirred, a soft sound filling the warm air. For the first time in months, Sophia felt something she hadn't dared to feel. Trust. Hours later, long after Alex had left, Sophia stood at the window, holding Noah. The stars over the Hamptons shone faintly. Then, across the dunes, she saw a small light blink twice like a coded signal. Her blood ran cold. She whispered, Alex, please tell me that's you. But miles away in Manhattan, Matthew smiled at his phone screen as a live feed reconnected, showing his wife, visible again through a new hidden camera. Phase 4 had just begun. By early summer, the Hamptons shimmered under the Sunday. The sea breeze carried a quiet promise of renewal, but Sophia Harrison no longer trusted the calm. She'd spent weeks building firewalls on her devices and legal walls around her children. The fear hadn't vanished, but it had transformed into something sharper: determination. That morning, Alex arrived with a navy blue portfolio under his arm. You're authorized, he said, setting it on the wooden table. The trust board has approved your provisional management rights for Harrison Holdings. It's time to take back your name. Sophia blinked. You mean I can actually run part of the company? He nodded. Not all of it yet, but you'll oversee the community projects and public relations. It will prove your stability to the board and to the world. Ellie, joining via video call, cheered. This is your comeback arc, honey. Let's make it cinematic. Sophia smiled for the first time in days. Where do I start? Alex leaned forward. We'll set up an office space downtown. My firm can loan you staff until you hire your own. Just be visible, poised, professional. Let Matthew underestimate you. 3 days later, Sophia walked through the revolving doors of a Manhattan skyscraper, dressed in a cream-colored power suit and low heels. The lobby gleamed with marble and light. It wasn't just a building, it was her mother's legacy, reclaimed. She took the elevator to the 32nd floor, her heart racing as the doors opened to a glass-walled office with panoramic city views. A young assistant handed her a Mont Blanc pen. "Miss Harrison, the contracts for the Grand Central headquarters renovation are ready for your signature." Miss Harrison, the name felt powerful again. She signed, her hand steady and sure. At midday, Alex stopped by to check on her progress. "How does it feel?" She smiled faintly. "Like breathing after being underwater for too long." They spent the afternoon reviewing proposals, their heads bent over glowing spreadsheets on MacBook screens. Outside, the skyline stretched, infinite and bright. But just as Sophia began to believe things were turning around, Ellie called, her voice strained. "We have a problem. Matthew has filed for shared custody and petitioned the court to evaluate your mental health. He's claiming you have delusions that you fabricated the surveillance." Sophia's pulse shot up. "He's insane. We have proof." "Proof doesn't matter if public opinion turns against you," Ellie cut in. "He's hired a PR firm. They're already leaking stories to gossip blogs about your emotional breakdowns." Alex's jaw tightened. "Then we fight back smarter. Facts, not outrage." That evening, Sophia stood at her office window as Manhattan glittered below. She remembered Matthew's words at the divorce hearing, "No one will believe you." Now, she had to prove him wrong. She began drafting her own press release. Nothing defensive, nothing emotional, just the truth, a mother reclaiming her name. She attached photos of her foundation relaunch plans, proof of her work, her medical reports confirming her health. Ellie reviewed the draft, saying softly, "This isn't just damage control, it's redemption." Hours later, the post went live on the verified Harrison Holdings account. Within minutes, it was trending. Thousands of comments poured in, women cheering her on, sharing stories of their own resilience. Sophia leaned back, her heart pounding. For the first time, Matthew didn't control the narrative. But at 2 a.m., a notification pinged on her phone. A new email. Subject: "You can't outsmart me, Sophia." Attached was a single photo, a grainy security camera image of her holding Alex's hand in the office. A knot formed in her throat. Below the picture, one line stared back at her. "See you in court, sweetheart." And as she stared at the screen, the city lights flickered, as if Manhattan itself was warning her that her ascent had just entered dangerous territory. By mid-July, the New York heat felt suffocating. Every newsstand headline seemed to scream her name. Sophia Harrison, unstable mother, billionaire Alex Davenport, new flame or new shame, charity or cover-up. Matthew had succeeded. He had poisoned the public against her with polished lies and paid-for gossip. Inside her office, Sophia stood frozen before a wall of glowing screens. Alex's PR director, a poised woman named Marisa, was flipping through slides. "He's painting you as emotionally erratic. He's claiming you're spending trust funds on lavish vacations and leaking photos of you with Alex." Sophia's voice trembled. "But I haven't even left the city." "It doesn't matter," Marisa said. "People don't believe in facts. They believe in stories, especially tragic ones with villains they can hate. Right now, you're his villain." Ellie stormed in, waving a folder. "I have the custody evaluation order. The judge wants to review your fitness as a mother. Matthew is pushing for supervised visits. He's gone on a full-scale offensive." Alex stood in the corner, silent, his jaw clenched. Finally, he spoke. "Then we'll show them who Sophia Harrison really is." He turned to Marisa. "Get us a media slot. A live interview. A national network. No tabloids, no gossip." Sophia blinked. "You want me to go on television?" "Yes," Alex said firmly. "Tell your story not through lawyers but in your own voice. You've been hiding, letting him define you. It's time to reclaim the narrative." The idea terrified her, but the next day, she was under the studio lights, heart racing, as makeup artists powdered her shaking hands. The producer whispered, "We're live in 60 seconds." Across from her sat the host of a morning show watched by millions. The host smiled sympathetically. "Sophia, thank you for being brave enough to come here today. America has heard a lot of stories about you. Some cruel, some unbelievable. What's the truth?" Sophia took a deep breath. The truth is, I'm not perfect. I cried when I signed those divorce papers. I broke when I thought I would lose my babies. But weakness is not insanity, it's humanity. The host leaned in. And what about your relationship with Alexander Davenport? Sophia looked directly into the camera. He saved my life, literally. But he is not my story. My story is survival. My story is 3 premature babies who taught me what real strength is. The studio fell silent. Even the crew had stopped moving. Sophia continued, her voice steady. Now, if people want to call me unstable because I refuse to let my ex-husband destroy me, so be it. But the only label I care about is mother. Applause erupted in the studio. The segment aired that afternoon and exploded online. Number Justice for Sophia started trending within hours. Influencers, mothers, and even journalists rallied to her cause. Back in her office that night, Ellie burst in, breathless. You did it. The tide is turning. Even the judge's office is reconsidering the custody review. Sophia smiled faintly, her eyes filling with tears. Maybe the truth still matters. But just as hope blossomed, Marisa rushed in, her face pale. We have a problem. She placed a tablet on the table, displaying leaked documents stamped confidential. This just went public. It shows large fund transfers from Harrison Holdings to Alexander Davenport's firm, dated last month. Sophia's heart stopped. Those were for the foundation's security upgrades. I know, Alex said grimly, but out of context it looks like fraud. And Matthew just shared it on his verified account with the caption, "She's stealing from her mother's trust to pay her lover." Ellie cursed under her breath. He's framing you again. Sophia stared at the glowing screen. All that progress, all that truth, it was about to crumble under one more lie. And somewhere in Manhattan, Matthew Sterling raised a glass of whiskey, watching a replay of her live interview on his phone. Nice speech, sweetheart, he muttered. Let's see how the world loves you tomorrow. Autumn swept into New York with sharp winds and golden leaves that tumbled down Park Avenue. After months of chaos, Sophia Harrison was invited to the annual Children of Tomorrow charity gala, the same event Matthew and his PR perfect mistress, Julia, were co-chairing this year. The irony was lost on no one. Ellie slapped the invitation on Sophia's desk. This is bait. I know, Sophia said calmly, turning the card over. But it's also a stage. If I stay silent, I'm the ghost in his story. If I show up, I'm the headline. Alex crossed his arms. You understand what you're walking into. He'll try to humiliate you publicly. Sophia looked up, her eyes no longer soft but steady. Then I'll let him try. That night, the Plaza Hotel glittered like liquid gold under chandeliers. Paparazzi lined the red carpet. Guests in Dior and Versace swept past the camera flashes. And then, a hush. Sophia arrived. She wore a simple, off-white gown, no diamonds, no glitter, just grace. Hair pulled back, makeup subtle, her presence radiant. Every lens turned to her. Miss Harrison, is it true you stole funds? A reporter shouted. Sophia smiled kindly. The truth has survived worse lies. Inside the ballroom was a sea of champagne flutes and whispers. Matthew stood near the main stage, tuxedo impeccable, Julia clinging to his arm like an accessory. When he saw Sophia, his smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. Well, he said as she approached. I didn't expect you to show your face here, darling. She held his gaze coolly. You still underestimate me. Julia chimed in, her voice sweet and poisonous. Careful, Matthew. She might live-stream this and start crying again. Sophia smiled faintly. Oh, Julia, don't worry. I save my tears for people with souls. Alex appeared at her side, offering his arm. The energy in the room shifted. Photographers shot like mad. Shall we? He asked. Matthew's jaw tightened. You think parading another man around makes you innocent? Alex's tone was quiet but razor sharp. No. But it makes her untouchable. The band began to play. As Sophia took to the dance floor with Alex, the crowd parted. The cameras captured their every move, elegance wrapped in defiance. Midway through the evening, the host took the mic. Tonight, we honor those who rebuild hope for children in need. Miss Sophia Harrison, would you do us the honor of presenting the keynote address? Matthew's smirk returned. Oh, this is going to be good. Sophia walked to the podium under a single spotlight. The ballroom went silent. When I started rebuilding the Harrison Foundation, she began, "People said I was unfit, too emotional, too broken. But maybe broken people understand need better than anyone. Tonight, I'm not here to prove my worth. I'm here to honor those who never gave up, even when the world called them unworthy." Applause rippled through the room. Matthew's expression hardened. Then, as if fate had timed it, Ellie appeared near the back, phone in hand, whispering urgently to Alex. She'd just received something in email from an anonymous sender, a file. Alex scanned it and froze. He leaned toward Sophia as she stepped down from the podium. "We got it," he whispered. "Got what?" she breathed. "The transfers Matthew used to frame you have been traced back to his own offshore account. He sent them." Her eyes widened. "Are you sure?" Ellie nodded from across the room. "Positive. We have the digital proof." Sophia straightened, her heart pounding. The night had just turned. Matthew, oblivious, raised his glass to her mockingly. "To second chances, darling." She smiled back coolly. "To last ones." And as the cameras flashed, Sophia knew this wasn't just a gala. It was her battlefield. Tomorrow, the same headlines that had crucified her would bury him. The gala should have ended in triumph. Sophia's speech had moved donors to tears, and Alex's whisper, "We got it," echoed like a promise of justice. But cruel, theatrical fate wasn't done testing her. As the dinner service began, Matthew Sterling took the stage, uninvited. His tuxedo gleamed under the chandeliers, confidence dripping from every word. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, microphone in hand. "Before we celebrate the evening, I'd like to correct a small misunderstanding about the woman you all just applauded." The crowd quieted. Sophia froze mid-step. Matthew smiled like a politician. "Many of you have read the articles, seen the evidence. Large sums missing from her mother's foundation, funneled directly into Mr. Alexander Davenport's firm. A rather modern love story, isn't it? Tragic, scandalous, and profitable." A murmur went through the room. Cameras flashed. Julia, beaming with smugness, watched from her table, swirling her champagne. Sophia felt the air leave her lungs. Alex was on his feet instantly. "Sit down, Matthew. You've said enough." Matthew smirked. "Don't play the hero, Alex. We both know this woman has been manipulating you and the system from day one. Look at her. Perfect lighting, perfect tears, a fraud born for pity." The audience watched, captivated by the cruelty. Sophia took a step forward. Her voice, soft but steady, cut through the noise. "You're right, Matthew. I cried. I cried when you called our unborn child a mistake. I cried when you froze my accounts and left me with nothing. But tonight," she lifted her chin, "I'm done crying over you." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Matthew opened his mouth, but she continued, louder now. "You talk about love stories. Here's the truth. You didn't lose me because I was weak. You lost me because I finally saw what strength looks like." The room erupted in applause. Even some of Matthew's partners shifted uncomfortably, but Matthew wasn't finished. "Touching speech, Sophia," he sneered. "Almost makes people forget that your mother's trust funded that penthouse you're hiding in." Alex moved closer. That penthouse was legally transferred under the Harrison estate. "Sure," Matthew cut in. "Maybe she seduced the trustee too." The words hung like thunder. The audience gasped. The cameras zoomed in on Sophia's face, her composure wavering, but only for an instant. Alex's fists clenched, but she touched his arm. "No," she said softly. "He's not dragging me into the mud." She turned back to Matthew, her voice quiet, almost compassionate. "You keep using my pain as entertainment, Matthew. But the difference between you and me? I heal. You perform." For a moment, the silence was thick. Then the host, sweaty and flustered, reclaimed the mic. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling, but we'll return to our program." Matthew's smirk faltered. The applause that followed wasn't for him, it was for her. Ellie rushed over, phone in hand, whispering urgently, "Sophia, the data. Gregory and I traced the transfers. It's done. By morning, the press will have everything." Sophia exhaled, her breath shaky. "Then tonight," He can have his moment. As she walked out of the ballroom, the flashes followed her, but not with derision this time. The reporters called her name, their voices different now, almost reverent. Outside, the cold air bit her cheeks. Alex caught up to her on the steps of the plaza. "You handled that like royalty," he said quietly. She smiled faintly. "No, like a woman who's finally stopped bleeding." But upstairs, as Matthew poured himself another drink, his phone buzzed with an encrypted message. "The files are compromised. She has everything." The glass slipped from his hand, shattering like the empire he thought would never fall. The morning after the gala, New York City buzzed with whispers. Every media outlet replayed Matthew's humiliation. Every talk show analyzed Sophia's quiet resolve. But while the world speculated, Sophia and Ellie were already 2 steps ahead, buried in evidence inside Ellie's Midtown office. Stacks of printed emails, wire transfers, and internal memos covered the oak desk. The hum of the city barely reached them. Alex sat across from them, sleeves rolled up, scrolling through a laptop screen filled with digital documents. "He created a maze of shell companies," Ellie muttered. "Cayman Islands, Zurich, even Singapore. Every penny of the supposed missing trust funds went straight to Sterling Holdings under false names." Alex leaned in. He knew how to hide it, but not perfectly. "Look here. Same signature. Different timestamp. He forgot to change the metadata." Sophia rubbed her temples. "So we have proof he fabricated everything?" "Not just that," Ellie said, sliding a folder toward her. "We have enough to prove he embezzled from his own firm. He used the Harrison Foundation as a cover and tried to frame you for it." Sophia stared at the files, her heart racing. "We can finally end this." Ellie hesitated. "Maybe, but we need one more piece. A witness inside Sterling and Associates who can verify this paper trail. Otherwise, Matthew's lawyers will bury us in technicalities." Alex nodded. "Someone on the inside." The office door creaked open. A timid voice said, "Maybe I can help." They turned. A young woman stood there, eyes red, trembling, clutching a flash drive. "Who are you?" Ellie asked. "My name is Amber. I was Matthew's executive assistant." Her voice broke. "I can't keep lying for him anymore." Sophia rose slowly. "You worked for him when?" Amber nodded. "Before the divorce. I know everything. The offshore transfers, the faked receipts, even the private investigators he hired to follow you. He said he wanted proof of instability. I thought it was a business matter. I didn't know it would hurt you." Alex handed her a bottle of water. "You're doing the right thing now." Amber plugged the flash drive into Ellie's laptop. The screen filled with scanned receipts, emails, and recorded calls. One file name made Sophia's stomach lurch. AMB2 104 WAV. Ellie clicked it. Matthew's voice spilled from the speakers, cold and deliberate. "Make sure she looks hysterical in public. Leak the hospital reports, the crying photos. I want a narrative. The unstable heiress. Once custody is mine, she can quietly disappear." The room fell silent. Sophia covered her mouth with one hand. Her eyes glistened, but her voice held steady. "This is enough," Ellie whispered. "This will bury him." Alex exhaled, half relief, half fury. "We'll release everything to the court and the press simultaneously. No more waiting." But before Ellie could answer, her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She answered it, and a distorted male voice crackled through. "You think those files will save her? Try looking out your office window." Ellie froze. Alex turned sharply to the glass. Across the street, a man in a dark jacket stood on a rooftop, the lens of a camera glinting in the morning Sunday. Alex yanked the blinds shut. "He knows we have the files." Ellie grabbed her purse. "We have to move, now. The original evidence stays with me. You two go separate routes." Sophia's pulse hammered as Alex took her arm and led her down the service stairs. Outside, horns blared. The city throbbed with adrenaline. Alex's car was waiting at the curb. As they pushed through traffic, he said, "Once this goes public, there's no turning back." Sophia stared out the window, her reflection merging with the skyline. "Good," she said softly. "I'm not going back." But as they disappeared into the chaos of New York, a black SUV followed at a steady distance, and inside, Matthew watched their every move, whispering, "Let them run. The next move is mine." Rain lashed the glass walls of the downtown safe house, echoing the chaos outside. Alex's security team had moved Sophia, the babies, and Ellie there after Amber's flash drive exposed everything. The outside world didn't know the truth yet, but inside that room, it was about to detonate. Amber sat at the dining table, trembling, a paper cup of coffee shaking in her hands. She looked years younger without the corporate veneer of Matthew's office. Guilt weighed in her eyes. "I should have spoken up sooner," she said quietly. "But Matthew made us all sign NDAs. He threatened to ruin anyone who crossed him." Ellie nodded. "You're safe now. The NYPD's cybercrime unit confirmed the metadata matches Matthew's transfers, but your testimony will make it irrefutable." Amber's eyes filled with tears. "He recorded everything, even me. He made me set traps for you. Miss Harrison, do you remember the fake email from your doctor about postpartum evaluations? That was me. He ordered me to send it." Sophia's breath hitched. "Why would you do that?" Amber shook her head, sobbing. "Because I needed the money for my brother's medical bills. But then he told me if you had a public breakdown, I'd get a bonus. He wanted pictures of you crying. I didn't know it would go this far." Alex crossed his arms, his expression grim but calm. "You're doing the right thing now, Amber. That's what matters." Ellie placed her laptop on the table. "We'll record an official, time-stamped, notarized statement tonight. It goes to the court first thing in the morning." Amber wiped her eyes. "I have something else." She pulled a small envelope from her purse. "This came to Matthew's office the day after your car accident. I wasn't supposed to open it, but curiosity got the best of me. It's a receipt. The Plaza Hotel, room 1412, paid for by M. Sterling, 2 hours before your ambulance was hit." Sophia froze, the night of the crash. Ellie's jaw tightened. "That's proof of premeditation." Alex leaned closer. "That's attempted murder." For a moment, the only sound was the storm outside. Sophia stared at the receipt, her heart thundering. "He tried to kill me," she whispered. Amber nodded. "And when he found out you'd survived, he said, 'Begin phase 3. I didn't know what it meant then. I do now." Ellie's phone vibrated. She looked down and cursed. "Matthew just filed a court order claiming we hacked his servers. He's going on the offensive." Alex's jaw tightened. "Let him. Once this hits the U.S. Attorney's office, his empire will crumble." Amber's voice trembled. "He won't go down quietly. He has people, dangerous people. His head of security, Mason, he's not just a guard. He's ex-private intel." Sophia pushed herself out of her chair, fire replacing fear. "Then I'm done hiding. Tomorrow, we release everything. Every file, every call, every wire transfer. He wants a war? Fine. But he's going to lose it in front of the entire world." Alex met her eyes. "If we do this, there's no protection left. He'll come for you personally." "I don't care," Sophia said. "He's taken everything from me but my dignity. I'm not letting him have that too." Lightning flashed, slicing across her determined face like a blade of light. Ellie exhaled. "Then tomorrow, we make history." Amber looked up. "I'll testify in court. Whatever it takes." Sophia walked over, squeezing her hand gently. "You're brave, Amber. You've broken his spell." That's how monsters die, when the people they control find their voice. But as thunder rumbled over the city, no one noticed the black sedan parked across the street, its headlights dimmed. Inside, Mason watched through binoculars, muttering into his comms. "Target confirmed. Orders remain the same. Eliminate the witness before sunrise." At dawn, the sky over New York was a sheet of bruised gray. Sophia stood in front of the courthouse in a navy blue dress, her hair pulled back, the slight tremor in her hands hidden in her coat pockets. This wasn't just a custody hearing anymore. It was war. Matthew Sterling had called in every favor, every lie, every piece of manipulative charm he had left. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with cameras and whispered gossip. Matthew sat at the defense table, polished and smug. Julia, beside him, gave Sophia the same smirk she'd worn the day she signed the divorce papers, confident, cruel, certain she would break again. But she didn't. She took her seat beside Ellie and Alex, her back straight, her gaze steady. The judge entered, a stern woman known for her zero-tolerance policy on theatrics. Case number 1834602, the bailiff announced. Sterling versus Harrison, custody hearing and countersuit for fraud. Matthew's lawyer stood first, slick and rehearsed. Your Honor, my client requests sole custody on the grounds that Miss Harrison exhibits psychological instability and financial misconduct, both proven by her erratic behavior and the leaked transfers from her trust. Sophia clenched her jaw but remained silent. Ellie whispered, "Don't react. Wait for our turn." Then it was Ellie's turn. She rose, her voice firm. Your Honor, we have evidence proving those same transfers originated from Mr. Sterling himself, designed to frame my client. We also have a recorded confession from his assistant and forensic proof of data manipulation. The room erupted in murmurs. Matthew's smugness faltered. The judge frowned. You have this evidence ready to present? Ellie nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Including the testimony of Miss Amber Lewis, former executive assistant to Mr. Sterling. Matthew's lawyer scoffed. The same assistant who is under investigation for data theft? A convenient witness. Ellie smiled thinly. Perhaps, but we also have a court subpoena validating her files and her physical presence here today. The judge nodded. Proceed. Amber, pale but resolute, took the stand. Her voice trembled only once. Mr. Sterling ordered me to falsify records and leak personal photos of Miss Harrison to the press. He also paid private contractors to interfere with her medical and financial records. Matthew jumped to his feet. Lies. She's being paid to say this. Sit down, Mr. Sterling, the judge warned. Amber continued, her voice firmer now. He told me, and I quote, "She's too fragile to survive another scandal. One more push and she'll break." Gasps filled the room. Sophia held back tears but remained composed. Ellie handed the judge a flash drive. For the record, Your Honor, this contains the original recordings. The judge inserted the drive, pressing play. Matthew's voice echoed through the speakers. Make her look unfit. I'll handle the rest. Matthew froze. Every camera turned to him. Julia's face went white. Alex leaned toward Sophia. It's over. He's done. But Matthew wasn't one to surrender. That's out of context, he barked. That's... The judge slammed her gavel. Enough, Mr. Sterling. She turned to Sophia. Miss Harrison, your composure in this proceeding speaks volumes. The court temporarily grants you full custody pending further investigation. Tears filled Sophia's eyes, but she held them back. Ellie squeezed her shoulder. As they left the courthouse, the flashes exploded. Reporters screamed questions, but Sophia didn't stop. She looked at Alex, whispering, It's finally over. Alex shook his head gently. Not yet. People like him don't lose quietly. At that moment, Ellie's phone vibrated with a new message. Her smile vanished. It's Amber. She hasn't arrived at the safe house after the trial. Her GPS stopped 2 blocks from here. Sophia's blood ran cold. What do you mean, it stopped? Ellie swallowed hard, her eyes wide. It stopped completely. And across town, a black sedan sat parked under a bridge, rain drumming on its roof. Inside, Amber's phone glowed faintly on the passenger seat, still recording. The last sound captured was Mason's voice whispering, "Orders fulfilled." The rain hadn't stopped since the verdict. It fell in slow, relentless curtains over New York, washing the city in cold silver. For Sophia Harrison, it wasn't victory that filled her chest, it was grief. Amber Lewis, the one woman brave enough to tell the truth, had been found dead in what the police were calling a hit and run. Everyone knew it wasn't an accident, but proving it was another story. Sophia stood by the window of her Upper East Side penthouse, holding Noah in her arms while the twins slept nearby. Ellie's voice on speakerphone was sharp, furious. The NYPD is calling it brake failure. No witnesses, no camera angles, just another statistic. He's silencing anyone who helps me, Sophia whispered. Alex's voice came through next, quiet but edged with steel. Then we stop playing defense. We don't just prove he's guilty, we dismantle his legacy." Sophia turned, her reflection hardening in the glass. "How?" "By building yours," Alex said. 2 weeks later, the Harrison Foundation for Mothers was launched with quiet grace in a downtown boardroom. The logo was simple: 3 small stars, 1 for each of her children. The event wasn't splashy, no red carpet, no champagne, just purpose. Sophia took the podium in a tailored black dress, wearing no jewelry but her mother's silver pendant. "Today," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart, "we are creating something that cannot be bought or broken: dignity, opportunity, safety for women who have been silenced." The small crowd burst into applause, cameras clicked. These weren't tabloid cameras this time, but real journalists, the kind who reported on courage, not scandal. After the event, a reporter approached. "Miss Harrison, your ex-husband has declined to comment on the ongoing investigation. Do you have anything to say to him?" Sophia smiled faintly. "Yes. Thank you for teaching me how much strength silence can hide." The next day, the headlines shifted. Sophia Harrison turns pain into power, from victim to visionary. Matthew's PR empire began to crack. Investors pulled out of Sterling Holdings. Clients canceled contracts. His mistress, Julia, was photographed leaving his penthouse with suitcases. But Matthew didn't crumble quietly. That night, he appeared live on a business channel, his voice measured, his mask impeccable. "This is a witch hunt," he said. "My ex-wife is manipulating tragedy for fame. I pity her." Alex watched from his office, jaw tight. He's using pity as a weapon again. Sophia, sitting nearby, didn't flinch. "Then we'll use the truth as ours." She opened a folder marked Project Reclamation, a collaboration between her foundation and Gregory Salas's firm. Together, they were reclaiming properties Matthew had fraudulently tied to his company. Every asset returned under the Harrison name was another nail in his coffin. Within a month, her foundation's impact spread across the city. Billboards read, "Dignity is non-negotiable, the Harrison Foundation." Donations poured in from women who saw themselves in her story. Even the district attorney's office took notice, reopening Matthew's financial fraud case under public pressure. Still, late at night, when the lights dimmed and the babies slept, Sophia felt the ache of Amber's absence. She would light a candle by the window and whisper, "You didn't die for nothing." One night, Alex stopped by with takeout and news. "The DA is moving to freeze his accounts. They're raiding Sterling Holdings tomorrow." Sophia met his eyes. "Tomorrow?" "Yes. You'll need to stay out of sight. Once he knows you're behind this, he might try something desperate." Sophia nodded slowly. "Let him. I've lived through desperation before." She turned back to the window as New York glittered in the rain, her reflection layered over the skyline. For the first time, her life wasn't defined by fear. It was defined by purpose. But somewhere, in the shadows, Matthew watched the breaking news report with a glass of whiskey and a loaded plan. "If she wants to destroy my name," he muttered, "I'll burn hers down with mine." For the first time in years, Sophia Harrison woke up without fear. Morning sun spilled into her kitchen like gold. The smell of coffee, the sound of giggles from the nursery life felt real again. Alexander Davenport sat at her kitchen island, sleeves rolled up, feeding mashed bananas to Jack while Ava and Noah played on the floor. "You're good at that," Sophia said, smiling softly as she poured coffee into 2 mugs. He chuckled. "I'm a quick study. Besides, they like me better than you right now." She laughed, a sound that had grown rarer but brighter. "Only because you don't make them eat their vegetables." It was ordinary, simple, beautiful, the kind of peace that once seemed impossible. Outside, New York was still wild and unforgiving, but in this small apartment, everything slowed down. Alex looked up. "The foundation numbers came in this morning," he said. "You've hit your first $1 million in donations." Sophia blinked. "Already?" "Already," he said, smiling. "Seems the world loves you, Miss Harrison." She shook her head, emotion catching in her throat. "They don't love me, Alex. They love the story. They love survival." He tilted his head. "And you are survival. For a moment, their gazes held two souls forged by loss, now orbiting the same light. Sophia looked away, her heart fluttering. "You should eat before it gets cold." He grinned but didn't move. "You still don't see it, do you?" "See what?" she asked quietly. "That you've already won. You're not just surviving anymore. You're living." His words wrapped around her like a warm embrace. But before she could answer, Ellie burst through the door, phone in hand. The feds raided Sterling Holdings. It's on every channel. Sophia's pulse shot up. "Already?" Ellie nodded, breathless. "They found everything. Offshore accounts, fraudulent shell companies, even evidence he bribed auditors. Matthew's empire is crumbling." Alex exhaled, a mix of relief and caution. "He'll lash out before he falls. Stay home today. Security is doubling the shifts." Sophia nodded, hugging Ellie. "Thank you for everything." Ellie winked. "Don't thank me yet. I like my victories with champagne." When Ellie left, the apartment fell quiet again. Sophia sat beside Alex, watching the sunlight dance across his face. "When this is over," she said softly, "what happens then?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Then, you finally get to choose a life, not one built from fear or survival, but from peace, whatever that means to you." Her chest tightened. "And you?" "I'll still be here," he said. "If you want me to be." The silence filled the space between them, thick and tender. Then, a cry from the nursery broke the moment. Sophia stood, smiling through tears. "Sounds like someone's awake." She disappeared into the nursery, lifting Noah into her arms. The baby giggled, pulling at her hair. "You're safe now," she whispered. "All of us." That night, they had dinner together, Alex, Sophia, and the triplets. No business talk, no court files, no ghosts, just laughter, pasta, and candlelight. Alex told stories about his late wife, about grief, about how healing doesn't erase pain, but transforms it. Sophia listened, feeling something shift inside her, a piece of herself fragile and bright. As the evening wore on, she found herself standing on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Alex joined her silently, offering her a glass of wine. "What are we toasting to?" she asked, clinking her glass against his. "To second chances," he said. She smiled, her eyes bright, and to finally feeling safe. For a moment, there was nothing but the hum of New York below and the beat of something new between them. But far across the city, inside a penthouse filled with empty bottles and shattered pride, Matthew Sterling watched her picture on a gossip site and whispered, "Enjoy your safety, Sophia, because peace never lasts forever." By late autumn, the air in New York held the kind of chill that made the city feel sharper, cleaner, as if the truth was finally cutting through years of lies. The news of Matthew Sterling's downfall dominated every headline. Sterling Holdings under federal investigation. Former CEO accused of fraud, embezzlement, and witness tampering. Sophia stood on her balcony that morning, coffee in hand, wrapped in an oversized sweater of Alex's. She watched news helicopters circle downtown where federal agents were raiding Matthew's offices. For the first time, the city didn't scare her. Alex came to stand beside her, phone pressed to his ear. "Yes, Gregory. Keep the Harrison Foundation separate from the fallout. We don't want the headlines mixing." He ended the call and turned to her. "It's official. The SEC has frozen all his assets. His empire is over." Sophia exhaled, her breath fogging in the cold air. He built everything on lies. It was only a matter of time before it collapsed. Alex nodded. "Time, and you." That same morning, Matthew Sterling arrived at his office to find chaos. Agents swarmed the marble lobby, seizing computers and files. His assistant wouldn't meet his gaze. Cameras flashed from the street as reporters shouted questions. "Mr. Sterling, are you aware of the indictment? Did you embezzle from your own shareholders?" Matthew forced a smile, climbing into his Mercedes with the quiet arrogance of a man who refused to believe he'd lost control. But when his driver didn't move, he snapped, "Well, drive." The driver turned around. It was Mason. The bodyguard's jaw was tight. "We need to talk." Matthew's eyes narrowed. "About what?" "The deal's off," Mason said quietly. "You promised me protection, not a prison sentence. The cops came to my apartment last night." Matthew's temper flared. You think you're innocent? You followed orders. My orders. That makes you guilty too. Mason stared straight ahead. I recorded everything. If I go down, you go down first. Matthew lunged for him, but Mason shoved him back against the seat. You should have paid me what you owed me, boss. He opened the door and disappeared into the street, leaving Matthew furious and alone. Back at her apartment, Sophia got the call from Ellie. It's happening. Matthew is facing 37 counts. They're freezing his accounts worldwide. He's going to lose everything. Sophia sat in silence, her children playing on the rug nearby. Everything but his conscience, she murmured. Assuming he still has one, Ellie said dryly. I'll see you at the press conference tomorrow. The DA wants you there. That night, Matthew stumbled into his penthouse dark, empty, silent. Julia was gone. His phone rang. The caller ID read Alexander Davenport. He hesitated, then answered. Alex's voice was quiet, almost compassionate. You should turn yourself in, Matthew. It's over. Matthew laughed bitterly. You always wanted her. Don't pretend this was about justice. This was never about her, Matthew, Alex said. It was about the person you chose to become. Matthew's eyes burned with rage. You think you've won? She'll never be clean again. The world forgets quickly, Alex. And when they get bored of her redemption story, she'll go back to being the villain. You'll see. The line went dead. Matthew threw his phone across the room. An hour later, the lights in his penthouse flickered as he poured one last drink. The city spread out before him like a glittering lie. He walked to the balcony, the wind cutting his face. The cameras below captured the image, the fallen billionaire staring at the skyline that once adored him. Meanwhile, in Sophia's apartment, Alex turned on the TV. The breaking news headline flashed. Matthew Sterling steps down as CEO amid scandal. Faces criminal charges. Sophia closed her eyes, whispering, Justice doesn't need revenge. It just needs the truth. She turned to her children sleeping in their cribs and pulled their blankets tight. But across the city, as Matthew stepped back from his balcony railing, his final words floated into the night. If I'm going down, I'm taking her story with me. And somewhere deep in the darkness, a spark of danger still flickered. The morning of the press conference, New York pulsed with tension. Reporters swarmed the front of the courthouse, their cameras aimed at the podium flanked by American flags. The headlines had already declared the storm. Matthew Sterling indicted on 37 counts of fraud and conspiracy. But the person everyone was waiting for was Sophia Harrison, the woman who had brought an empire to its knees. Inside the courthouse lobby, Sophia straightened her black blazer, her hands trembling slightly. Alex placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You don't owe them a spectacle, he said quietly. You just owe them the truth. Ellie, looking over her legal notes, added, And remember, this isn't just about Matthew. It's about every woman who has been silenced by men like him. Sophia looked at her reflection in the glass door, not the scared wife from months ago, but a survivor, a mother, a name no longer stained. Then let's end this, she said. The doors swung open, flashes exploded like lightning. The crowd surged. Sophia walked to the podium, Alex and Ellie behind her. The murmur died down as she faced the sea of lenses. Good morning, she began. For over a year, my life has been shattered by lies not just personal but corporate. Today, justice begins to rebuild what deceit destroyed. She held up a binder marked Harrison Foundation Records. Every cent of my mother's trust has been accounted for. Every accusation against me was fabricated by Matthew Sterling, who used fear as a tool and money as a weapon. A reporter shouted, Miss Harrison, do you have proof? Yes, she said, her voice unwavering. You will find every document publicly uploaded as of this morning. Transparency is no longer optional for me. It's survival. The crowd buzzed. Ellie nodded in approval. Alex watched her, pride softening his features. Sophia continued. But this is not just my story. It's about anyone who has been told they are too emotional, too fragile, too small to fight back. Dignity doesn't come from perfection. It comes from persistence. The applause that followed wasn't polite. It was thunderous. Moments later, the district attorney stepped forward to confirm the charges. Matthew Sterling had been formally indicted and would stand trial within the month. But just as Sophia began to step away from the podium, chaos erupted. A man in a dark coat broke through the barrier, screaming her name. Security acted instantly, tackling him to the ground. Reporters shouted, cameras flashed. Sophia froze, her heart pounding. Ellie shielded her, but Alex grabbed her arm, pulling her back toward the courthouse steps. "Who was that?" Sophia gasped. A security officer spoke into his radio. "We have him. ID says Mason Carter, ex-private security for Sterling Holdings." Sophia's blood went cold. Mason. Alex's expression darkened. Matthew's enforcer. Inside the police van, Mason fought against his cuffs, shouting, "It's not over." He said the story's not over. Sophia watched as the van doors slammed shut, sirens wailing into the distance. The press swirled again, screaming questions, but Alex pulled her away. Back inside, Ellie exhaled shakily. That could have ended very badly. Sophia leaned against the cool marble wall, breathing hard. "He's trying to scare me. Even from the shadows, he wants control." Alex met her gaze directly. "Then take it all back. You've spoken the truth. Now, live it. Let him rot with his lies." Later that night, footage from the conference aired on every major network. The image of Sophia standing, steadfast against the chaos of the flashes, became iconic. Tweets flooded social media. "The truth has a face." In her apartment that evening, Sophia held her children as they fell asleep. For the first time in years, she felt peace. The sound of the city felt like applause. But somewhere, in a prison cell, Matthew Sterling smirked at the news report. "She thinks it's over," he muttered. "But the story ends when I say it does." And under the table, a guard slipped him a phone, glowing with an unread message. Winter returned to New York with a soft snowfall instead of storms. The trial was over. Matthew Sterling was convicted on all counts, and for the first time in 2 years, the world stopped whispering Sophia Harrison's name with pity. Now, they said it with respect. The woman who rose from the ashes. On a crisp December morning, sunlight spilled over the Brooklyn Bridge. Inside a cafe overlooking the river, a warm light glowed on white roses and crystal chandeliers. The scent of vanilla and cedar filled the air. Guests spoke in hushed tones, waiting for the bride. Ellie adjusted her dress in the changing room, smiling. "You do realize the whole country is watching this wedding, right? The tabloids, the magazines, everyone." Sophia laughed softly. "I'm not getting married for the headlines. I'm getting married for the peace." Her reflection in the mirror was serene, her hair swept up simply, her satin gown timeless. Around her neck hung her mother's pendant, the one engraved with courage. "This is for her," she whispered. Outside, Alexander Davenport waited at the altar overlooking the East River. He looked different now, lighter, freer. The gray in his eyes wasn't sadness anymore, it was home. Beside him, Gregory Salas smiled quietly. The man who was once the guardian of Sophia's past was now a witness to her future. When the music began, the doors opened. Sophia entered. The entire room stood. Her steps were steady, deliberate, as if she were walking not just toward love, but toward redemption itself. When she reached Alex, he whispered, "You look like peace." She smiled. "And you look like everything that comes after." The officiant spoke softly over the murmur of the river. "You have both weathered storms most could never endure. Today, you are not promising perfection. You are promising presence." Sophia squeezed Alex's hand. "Presence is all I ever wanted." They exchanged handwritten vows, signed with the same Mont Blanc pen that once sealed her divorce papers, a symbol of endings reborn as beginnings. "I don't promise to shield you from pain," Alex said, "but I promise to stand beside you when it comes." "And I don't promise a perfect love," Sophia replied. "Only an honest one, built on scars, not illusions." When the officiant declared, "You may kiss the bride," the crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, but this time, Sophia didn't flinch. She leaned in and kissed Alex softly, the world blurring around them. Ellie wiped her eyes. "Damn it, I swore I wouldn't cry." Gregory chuckled. "That's what happens when justice gets romantic." Outside, it began to snow, light and almost cinematic. As they stepped onto the patio, reporters shouted questions. "Miss Harrison, what's next?" Sophia looked up at the sky. "Now," she smiled. "Life. Finally. Just life." Alex wrapped an arm around her as photographers captured the moment. "You know," he said quietly, "your story is going to be taught in business ethics classes one day." Sophia laughed. "I hope they skip the parts where I cry." "No," he said, brushing a stray piece of hair from her face. "That's the part that made everyone believe." Later that night at the reception, she held her triplets as they danced under the soft glow of fairy lights. Ava pulled at her veil. Jack tried to eat the microphone. The guests laughed, and the music swelled. As the night ended, Sophia stood alone for a moment, looking at the Manhattan skyline reflected in the river, the same skyline that had once watched her break. She whispered to herself, "I'm home." But as she turned to go back inside, a waiter clearing glasses handed her a folded note. No sender. Inside, in block letters, it read, "He didn't do it alone." The paper trembled in her hand as the snow continued to fall. The snow blanketed the city like a blank page. It had been 2 months since the wedding, and New York finally felt kind again. In their Upper East Side home, Sophia Harrison, now Sophia Vega, watched her 3 toddlers chase each other through the living room while Alex hung their wedding photo on the wall. The golden afternoon light reflected off the frame, capturing the soft smiles frozen in time. "Perfect," Alex said, stepping back. "Now it looks like a home." Sophia smiled, curling up on the sofa with a cup of tea. Finally, the triplets shrieked as Ava tripped over a toy truck and Sophia rushed to her. Laughter filled the air. The sound no longer carried tension, it carried peace. The woman who once signed her name through tears now signed permission slips for daycare. The skyline beyond her window was no longer a reminder of pain, it was a view of survival. Ellie stopped by that afternoon with a box of documents. "Guess what?" she said, setting it on the table. "The foundation just received national status. You're officially a countrywide nonprofit now." Sophia grinned. "From the court docket to the Federal Register. That's poetic." Ellie winked. "You did it, Soph. No headlines, no scandals, just work, compassion, and grit." Alex poured coffee for the 3 of them, and let's not forget, she turned her story into a movement all on her own. Dignity is Power has raised millions. Sophia rolled her eyes. "I didn't start a movement. I just stopped apologizing." They laughed. The conversation drifted to vacation plans, donations, and the trip they would take to the Hamptons in the spring. For once, life was ordinary, and that made it extraordinary. But as Ellie left and the children fell asleep, Sophia found herself standing by the window, looking at the skyline again. That note from the wedding was still on her nightstand. He didn't do it alone. She hadn't told Alex. She wanted peace, not paranoia. But every few nights, that single sentence whispered through her thoughts. "Thinking again?" Alex asked softly, coming up behind her. She turned and smiled. "Just remembering." He wrapped his arms around her. "You can remember and still move forward." "I know," she said quietly, "but a part of me wonders if Matthew really did act alone. He was smart, but he wasn't that smart." Alex kissed the top of her head. "If there's more to uncover, it will come to light. But don't let ghosts steal your present." She nodded, exhaling slowly. "You're right. Today is what matters." The next morning, Sophia met Gregory Salas at his office for the last few estate matters signatures. The papers were lined up on his desk, neat and precise. "Everything seems correct," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Except for one small detail. An anonymous deposit into the trust fund 6 years ago. No signature, no trail. But it doubled the assets." Sophia frowned. "Anonymous?" "Yes," Gregory said thoughtfully. "Whoever it was, they wanted to keep you safe long before any of this started." She smiled faintly. "Maybe some angels wear suits." By sunset, the house was glowing with laughter and warmth. Alex was reading to the children by the fire. Sophia folded blankets nearby. The world outside was cold, but inside, life was soft again. As the fireplace crackled, she opened her journal and wrote to the woman she was the day she signed those papers. You were broken, but you still walked away. That is courage. You lost everything, and somehow you found yourself. You're home now. She closed the journal and looked at her family, the only ending she ever needed. The camera of life, if this were a film, would have panned away then. Manhattan glittering like a constellation, the snow falling slow and endless, the sound of children's laughter echoing softly through the windows. But as the credits of peace rolled silently across the skyline, one final image lingered. A man in a gray coat stood across the street, watching the lights of the house flicker. He smiled faintly and whispered, "Phase 2 complete." Then he vanished into the snow. And that is how our story finally comes to a close. Quite a journey, wasn't it? If you're still listening to this very moment, something in Sophia's story must have moved you. Maybe a memory, maybe a quiet strength you'd forgotten you had. Life breaks us in ways we don't always understand, but as Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the obstacle is the way. Every fall, every heartbreak, every betrayal becomes the very path that shapes us. Sophia's journey wasn't just about revenge or success, it was about reclaiming peace, about remembering that healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means transforming pain into power. As the Stoics said, what stands in the way becomes the way. And maybe that's what we all need to hear, that our worst moments can still lead us home. So, my friend, if you're still here, maybe it's time to start your own comeback story. If Sophia's strength has reminded you of yours, like this story, share it with someone who needs hope tonight. And subscribe, because we're building a place where broken hearts learn to rise again. Your story isn't over yet, it's just beginning.